Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with you. Our thoughts in these days have been preoccupied with the help of Pope Francis. And on Tuesday, all of the priests of the diocese gathered together in prayer, and we prayed the rosary for the Holy Father for his health. And that's a sign of all of the prayers that have been going up, both here within the Diocese of San Diego and throughout the world, asking God to be with the Pope and help him. You know, Pope Francis has been throughout his pontificate since 2013. He has been really a sign of prayer, of reaching out to, in every situation in the world, of turmoil and hardship and struggle and suffering, and bringing prayer to those moments. And so, as a consequence, it's so appropriate that throughout the world people are raising their voices in prayer for the Pope and praying that God will be with him, help him in the suffering, give him peace and give him strength and give him healing. And the situation looks better now, that the Pope may be able to recover, and I'm very happy for that personally. And I know that so many people who have looked upon this Pope as a man who has brought a sense of real pastoral commitment and depth to the life of the Church and putting the outreach of the Church to everyone, inviting everyone into the life of the Church, and especially to those who are poor and vulnerable and marginalized and who are suffering in any form, that this Pope may continue to be the leader of the Church for some time to come and continue to give that message to the world, which is in so much tumult and conflict now, that the Pope Francis' message of love and compassion and care and considering everyone equal is especially needed in our world at this time throughout the world. So the second reason, of course, I'm here today is to just to say farewell in a formal way to the Diocese of San Diego. I will be the administrator of the diocese until March 11th, when I am installed as the Archbishop of Washington. But it will be 10 years I will have been here. And it has been a tremendously joyous 10 years for me. People say to me so often when in different places now, they say, oh, it must be hard leaving San Diego because of the weather. And it is, but it's not principally because of the weather. It's rather because San Diego is a community of vibrancy and diversity. It's a rich tapestry of people's lives coming together in all different backgrounds and cultures and frameworks of looking at the world and building a community together here in San Diego County and Imperial County. And so coming into conversation and to friendship with so many people in these two counties in these past 10 years has been a rich joy for me to see God at work here in this place and to know that that work of God is sustained and will be sustained long after I go. But it has been a great grace for me being here. And part of my heart will always be here in San Diego when I'm in Washington or wherever I am, because I've been captured here so much by the priests we have are great, the lay leadership of the Church is great here, and the people in the community as a whole really speak to the vitality and the beauty of everyone being included together, everyone seeing each other as a brother or sister, equal in dignity, equal in importance. And so I'm so delighted to have had this experience here. So with those two things said, I will just be open to any questions anyone might have now. Yes. Yes. It won't occur. That is, it'll have to be postponed. Until I'm installed, yeah. If I were to be somewhere, if I couldn't do the installation on March 11th, if I were not a cardinal, it would still go on. But if I'm a cardinal and I can't be and March 11th in Washington would go on. I don't expect now that's going to happen, but yes, so it would just be put off until a time when it could be done. So, yes.
Do you have any plans to meet with President Trump in Washington and probably address some of his immigration policies?
I'm sorry, could you say?
Do you have any plans to meet with President Trump in Washington soon?
No, not at this time. You know, I'm going to Washington as the Archbishop of Washington, which is a pastoral role. That is, my role is the leadership of the Catholic community of Washington and all that that brings with it. In Washington, there's the Conference of Catholic Bishops, which is the organization of all the bishops in the United States. They do most of the liaison with the government, so that is not the role of the Archbishop of Washington. That's not a primary element of what I would be doing. So I don't think in the short run that I'll be meeting with President Trump. I don't know, but yes.
Since you are transition from here to Washington, has anyone in Washington reached out to you to find out how Pope Francis is doing?
Oh yes, yeah, quite a few people have asked how he's doing, and some inside the government, some outside the government, and so I had a lengthy call with President Biden the other day, and he's close with Pope Francis, so he was asking, and he's been praying, and but a number of other people, yes, have been asking, because the Pope has a great deal of resonance with people in the Catholic community and outside the Catholic community because of the message he brings to the world, particularly at this time. And so there's a lot of goodwill toward him and a lot of desire that his witness and his ministry continue for some years into the future. So.
Just to follow up, if I may, I know that he's played a pretty important role in your life, having appointed you as bishop and cardinal and now archbishop. Can you talk about what Pope Francis means to you?
Sure. I was actually appointed auxiliary bishop of San Francisco by Pope Benedict. And so I served there for 5 years. But then in 2015, I was appointed here by Pope Francis as Bishop of San Diego, which was a wonderful, wonderful appointment. I was delighted by it. You know, when you're a bishop, and you know, it's kind of, there's a time when you know you likely may be moving, but you don't know where you're moving. So there are different places open, there were different places open. And I knew San Diego was open, and I was just delighted when I got the call that Pope Francis had appointed me there. But I've had many meetings with Pope Francis, talking about sometimes specific issues, sometimes just talking to meet in general. He always asks about the border. The border is a great concern of his, and the situation for migrants here in this part of the country. So every time I see him, he says, "How is the border, and how is the situation for the migrants doing?" So he has a knowledge of San Diego in that sense, and in the wider sense of the vibrancy of the church here. So he asks about that all the time when I meet with him. He's a very strong-willed man. He has a vision of where Christ is calling the church to go, and he wants to lead in that vision, and thinks God is asking him to take a role in leading in that. And my guess is that's partly why he's fighting through this illness, is because he still has things to do, and he's hoping God gives him the opportunity to do that, and thinking that God has charted out, particularly in this whole question of synodality, which has been at the heart of the life of the church and of his mission, of the participation of all in the life of the church, the invitation of all, the witness to the mission of proclaiming Christ and Christ's love for the world and Christ's sacrifice for us in his death and resurrection, all of these things. So he also has a sense of humor. I will tell you a story. When I was appointed a cardinal, I had no notion that I was going to be a cardinal. They don't tell you ahead of time. So you get no warning. So I was asleep at 3:30 in the morning in my house, not far from here, and all of a sudden my phone was off, but the text message is registered. You know, when a text message comes in, it makes a little noise. So about 10 of them came in at the same time, so it woke me up. So I went and looked at it and said, congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. I thought, congratulations for what, you know? It's 3:30 in the morning. So I looked at it, was that I was going to be a Cardinal. So I came over here and to the office and did some work, and then did a press release. But then I went on the website to look at what is the ceremony for the installation of a Cardinal. And they had the YouTube of the previous ceremony 2 years before. So I looked at it and I was horrified, because when you kneel, you have to kneel down to receive the red hat, which is the sign of being a Cardinal. That's the signal of the office. And you kneel down in front of the Pope. Now the Pope at this time was not mobile, so, and then you had to stand up. Well, I can't kneel down, because my knees work fine for walking or for climbing, anything, but I can't kneel. I have no padding there. So if I kneel down, I can't get up. So I'm horrified at this. So I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? I was pleased that when I looked at the whole tape, several others had difficulty getting up too, the previous one. So I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do with this? And so I thought about it, and a friend of mine said, well, you should do some exercises to do this. And they gave me a routine that a fitness trainer did. So I tried that, and it made it worse. So then I thought, well, you know, carpet layers have to be on their knees all the time. So I went to Home Depot, and I got a pair of knee pads that carpet layers use. And I put it on over my pants and underneath the vestment for the Cardinal. So, and I could go down and up. It was like a rocket. It was great. So I go down and come to that part of the ceremony. I kneel for Pope Francis. Now, he's not mobile because his knee had been wrecked at that point. Still really has not recovered. So anyway, so I kneeled down, and it was fine. And then I get up, and he kind of pulled me into him, because he said, how's your heart? Because I'd had heart bypass surgery about 8 months before. So he says, how's your heart? And he threw me off balance. I said, well, my heart is great, but I said, my knees are bad. And he said, so are mine, so we're in this together. So he has a very good sense of humor, and people don't often know that about him. But he's a man of joy. He's a man of deep prayer. He works tirelessly. He has a whole series of public engagements every day, and then he has a number of engagements which are private to meet with people who wouldn't ordinarily get in. And he is a man who listens, and a man who truly engages with other people, and who believes others have something to teach him. So those are all the qualities that I have found in him personally, and as a friend and as the leader of the church. Yes?
Given your bypass surgery 3.5 years ago, and you're going into a high-stress job, how do you quantify your health now?
Well, actually, the bypass surgery was successful. It was major. I mean, it was a quadruple bypass. But it was successful, so that seems to be in place for quite some time to have dealt with that issue. So I actually feel good now, and I've lost some weight. You know, when you have heart issues, they make you lose weight, so I've lost some weight. So I think I'm okay in that set of regards now. And there are a number of challenges that I'm moving into in the diocese, in leading any large diocese, but I think it will be okay.
Personally, for
Yes.
you, what has San Diego meant to you personally?
Well, you know, I used to come down, grew up in south of San Francisco in Burlingame. So we used to come down here for vacation every year. We'd go to Coronado or sometimes La Jolla. And so I knew San Diego in that way, and in a very positive way. It was the place we went on vacation during the summer. And so, and just, it has become for me a home, as I say. So I will miss it very, very much. I will miss that I won't be here for the next years. I thought I'd be working here until I retired, you know, and moving at 71 is unusual. So, but it's been not only a great 10 years here, but it was a positive image in my mind when I came here because of spending so much time down here growing up, but it was more so.
Particular memories of the last 10 years, fond memories of your work here in St. Anne?
Sure. There are a number of things we did. We had some diocesan synods, which are meetings where we brought together people from all the parishes to talk on deep levels, sustained levels about certain issues. We did one on marriage and family in 2016, and we did one on 2019 on youth and young adults. And then we did a broader thing, but on this question of synod and consultation 3 years ago. Those to me were high points in terms of my participation in leadership of the church here during this period of time, because they were moments when we grappled with particularly important issues in the life of the church in a way that was outside the norm, that is really inviting people to think about it in a new way and reach out with greater breadth to focus on that. You know, some of the moments would be, for example, regarding the challenges with migration. One I remember in particular, one Easter several years ago when we had the children who were coming from the border to the border, and they flew 1,500 young girls who were basically about 8 years old to about 15 years old. And they were all in the new convention center because it was during COVID time. And it was so moving to see these girls. You know, they were on cots. And we had sent rosaries over there to be with them. And so I went to say the Mass on Easter Day. And they wear their rosaries on their neck, and just to see, because they had a sense of such bewilderment, of feeling lost, of prayerfulness, of feeling close to their families but away from their families. It was a very poignant moment, and there have been many of those in terms of with the whole issue of immigration. Another thing would be that as we tried to cope with COVID, which was such a wrenchingly difficult time for people in the whole of the society, it's something we had never encountered before, and I hope we will never encounter again. But some of the best elements of people's heroism and hopefulness and sacrifice came out during that period of time. And that was true in the life of the church. All of the churches, were closed during this period, and they had to find a way of reaching out to people, and they did. The priests worked very hard, the leadership worked very hard to be present to people in their need. Catholic Charities worked very hard to come up with food programs of getting people, because people couldn't get out of their homes, So that was a moment, even though it was a moment of tremendous suffering, it was a moment when you saw people so often at their best, reaching out, not concerned about themselves so much as for other people too. And so I'd say those were moments where I found great grace here in the people. Okay, yes?
Other than the red hat, what are you so looking forward to in your new role?
Well, coming to know Washington will be one thing. It's a fascinating place. There's a lot going on. It is a diverse Catholic community like it is here. It's heavily Hispanic. The Catholic community in the Archdiocese of Washington is about a third Hispanic, although it's more Central American. Here, of course, it's predominantly Mexican, the Hispanic population. There it's more Central American. But to coming to know the community and the parishes and the individual people, that's most what I'm looking forward to. When I get there, I'm going to go out to the different parishes and meet with the lay leadership, and then I'm going to meet individually with all the priests to kind of get to know what is the reality of the life of the church in Washington. So I'm looking forward to that, because again, it's a very diverse place. I'm well aware that now there's an additional pastoral challenge to people, because many federal workers are losing their jobs, and they live in Washington, a lot of them, and So they'll be members of our community too. So that's an additional challenge that's going on at the present moment. Yes?
What do you see your role and the church's role in this moment, particularly in Washington?
I think the church's role is to be a witness in this current moment, because the church's role was not to solve political problems or even to solve policy problems. That's not our role. The church has no specifically political role in the public order. It has rather a moral role to comment on policies and to comment on directions in society in light of the gospel of Jesus Christ and Catholic teaching. And so that is what our role should be, and I think that's what it will be during this period of time, because we're in a moment of great tumult in our country. Things are being turned upside down in so many ways, and that's true in the world as a whole. And so this is a moment when we really have to grapple with what does it mean in our society to be a compassionate society, for example? What does it mean to really say we believe in the equal dignity of every human person? And how do we live that out? Those are the areas of witness that I think the church is called to bring, and sometimes to bring with specific focus in the discussions we're having now, because we are at a turning point moment in the history of our country, and so the church desires to make sure that in that discussion and in that formation of policy and direction, the witness of the gospel is present there. Okay.
As you leave San Diego, do you see, or what do you see as any unfinished business here?
Oh yes, it's never finished. You know, I have on my desk usually is piled with things. I'm not a super organized person. It is now, for the first time in 10 years, totally clean. There's nothing on it. So I finished up in that sense. But the work of the church continues on because it never ends, because there are always new things to do in terms of the mission of proclaiming the faith, of reaching out to the poor and the marginalized and the vulnerable, of coming to people in their times of suffering, of helping in the life of our parishes to build up the parish communities. So that's never over. Now, luckily we have 3 auxiliary bishops here I've been graced with, and they will continue on in this interim period of time, and then maybe 8 months to a year from now, there'll be a new bishop appointed to San Diego. So there's a lot left unfinished, because the mission of the church is never even close to being done. I'm happy with what has been accomplished. You know, there are things I wish I had done that I didn't do, but the work of the church is going to continue on, and it's in good hands here. What do I?
You mentioned that you wish there were things that you wished you had done.
I would say the greatest challenge we have in the life of the church now, pastorally in the United States and here in San Diego, is to reach out to young people, because there's a great drift from the church among young for a variety of different reasons. We held a synod in 2019 to deal with this. The problem was, when we got to the end of the synod, almost all the initiatives were dealing with community and reaching out to people and gathering people, and then that was right when COVID hit, so it stalled it. So I'd say, if you ask me, the one major area I wish I had done more in was, after COVID was over, recouping that effort and starting up in greater depth again, because that's a huge challenge. Yes?
The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops is suing the government over withholding refugee aid.
Yeah.
You're in Washington, where I think this is based. What role would you have in that trial or that lawsuit? Do you have any plans to be a witness in that trial if it comes to it?
Well, that is, the Conference of Bishops is very involved in the migration and refugee services, which are the resettlement of refugees in the United States. Those are people who come in seeking asylum or refugee status. They're admitted to the country legally, provisionally, pending a court hearing. And our own Catholic Charities has been very, very active in that, and I've been very proud of all the work that they have done. At one point, we were transitioning about 800 people a day who are, again, legally admitted to the United States. They come here, and almost everybody who comes has relatives. So they want to go and live with the relatives that they have in this country. So we would arrange for them to have the health screening when they come in, to help them get basic necessities, to link them up to where they should go to help get them there, whatever part of the country their family is in. And then, it's that work that the suit is over, in that it was carried out with substantial federal funding, and here in California, the state was very generous too. So the government is now stopped paying for services that it had already contracted for and were done, so that the suit is over that question. No. Yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of the suit, but I'm not, yeah, I would not be directly involved. Okay, yes.
By any chance, has Pope Francis shared some guidance recently about handling ICE presence inside or here?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. By any chance, has Pope Francis shared some guidance recently on handling ICE presence inside the church or nearby?
I think the question was, has Pope Francis shared some guidance on ICE presence, particularly in the churches? The question of coming into churches and other places of worship, and frankly coming to schools in the same way, is a deeply moral question. And the reason it hasn't been done is because when those places become targets of ICE raids, it makes everyone uneasy. It strikes fear in everybody's heart, of those who are undocumented, okay? So it acts as a deterrent to people going to church and freely worshiping, or going to school. We're seeing that in schools now. And that's why it's so deadly. That's why the provision was those areas would not be targeted, okay? And it's very important. So the Pope hasn't specifically said anything on that question, but I can tell you without fear of hesitation, he would be against such raids. What I want to talk a little bit on that question too is the Pope wrote a letter to the bishops of the United States recently on the whole question, and he took what I think is the essential stance, the really important point, and he was right to focus on it. What he said is happening in our country is that Catholic teaching says a country has a right to control its borders. That's true in Catholic teaching, and that's a legitimate objective to pursue, as long as it's done with dignity for people. But what's going on now is a wider cultural attack upon all those who are undocumented, those who came to this country without proper papers, many of them fleeing persecution or violence, many of them having terrible economic situations they're fleeing. So what he said, the primary problem is what's going on in our society is there's an effort to classify all of these people as criminals. All right. Now, when you classify people as criminals, then that casts them as the other, as different, and thus needing different treatment and not having the same dignity. And so the Pope was saying our first understanding of people has to be that we are all brothers and sisters first. And the notion, when I was a priest and giving talks in different places on immigration over the years, I would usually ask the question once during that, I'd say, because I'd come up about breaking the law. I'd say, all right, everyone here who has never broken the law, please raise your hand. And each place, there would be about 2 people who would raise their hand. They'd always be men, I have to say. Two guys would raise their hand. And then their wives would haul the head down over time because, so it's a prism of dehumanizing people. To take all of these people who come here for various reasons, some of them coming as kids, and to say, these are all the criminal class. It's a falsity. It's a moral falsity. And so he said, that's where we have to begin, by rejecting that kind of approach to looking at what is the problem, to look at what are the real problems posed by immigration and how do we deal with them, including securing the border, but not dehumanizing people by casting them all as criminals. Okay, and thank you all very much. You've always been great over the years to deal with, so thank you very much. I appreciate it.